From courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. Andrew with you once again, joined as always by my co-host Derek, aka D for 3. Derek, we've got some more NBA 2K27 news and previews last week, but this is not going to be a preview season like years gone by. Still, we have some thoughts on the latest developments, so please, tip us off.
Yeah, on today's show, we will be discussing the NBA 2K27 official gameplay trailer, as well as an announcement related to yet another in-game meter. This time, a dunk meter for all dunks. But first, Andrew, let's talk about this trailer. There was a time when people would anxiously await the trailer for the newest 2K. And when it was released, it would get people genuinely excited. You would see that excitement in the comment sections on all social media and video sharing platforms. The last time I saw that type of positivity around NBA 2K gameplay trailers was probably NBA 2K17. The response that I have seen related to the NBA 2K27 trailer has been far from positive, with most people spending more time pointing out the graphics and gameplay sequence flaws, rather than celebrating what could be to come. The trailer starts out with the cover athlete Wemby, shifts to Caitlin Clark dribbling the ball up the floor, followed by Derrick Rose pounding his chest. The three cover athletes on display right off the bat. The trailer shows off the NBA champion next with a shot of Jalen Brunson, followed by a solid mixture of highlights from both the NBA and WNBA. Caitlin Clark, Tyrese Halliburton, Olivia Miles, Jalen Brunson, Paige Beckers, SGA, Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards, etc., all on display. LeBron does his chalk toss, which looks almost identical to how it appears in NBA 2K11. You have players in their new threads, like Jaylen Brown in Philly, LaMelo in Minnesota, and Ja Morant with a huge poster dunk in his new Trailblazers uniform. And you have blocks and dunks by Wemby. They also show off some signature style, with a zoom in on Caitlin Clark's new signature shoe. Andrew, looking at the comment section here, most people are disappointed. From a graphics perspective, from a gameplay perspective, they're pointing out how Wemby's blocks look canned, how he's not touching the ball on the blocks. People aren't happy with the lighting. They feel like graphics are declining. They feel like they're not improving. And people don't seem super excited about this. You and I aren't graphics snobs, but we do look at the big picture with these things. How are the other people going to feel about the graphics, about the visuals, about the potential decline? Will that deter them from buying the game? Will it negatively affect their experience? We also care about how they feel about the gameplay as well, because gameplay is paramount. But yeah, I wasn't too impressed with this trailer, but my expectations have been kind of low for years now with this series. And I think the last time I got excited about a trailer was with NBA 2K17.
Yeah, I miss that, being excited by a trailer. And you're right, people aren't really hyped by what they've seen. As we said last week, the graphics have reached a point where they're not really improving, not really impressing us year to year. People not liking the style as it is, not feeling it's getting any better either. And these cinematic trailers, I don't think you can get really excited about it. You're not seeing raw gameplay, so it's not answering a lot of questions about what the game looks like, how it's going to play. I know that we can't really judge that until it's actually in our hands, but you're not even getting really much of an impression at all. Cinematic angles, quick clips. Of course, it's going to try and make the game look as good as it can. It's going to show off the best case scenarios of how the action plays out. And even then, people are noticing legacy issues, as you pointed out. So you really can't get excited the way we used to. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I really anticipated a trailer, knowing that it's going to be this cinematic sequence, these quick clips from non-gameplay angles. Do you see some cool sequences here and there? Sure. But again, doesn't answer our questions about gameplay. Same old, same old. So I'm not surprised that people are disappointed by the trailer. Like you, my expectations are fairly low. This lived up to those expectations, if you will, not in a good way. But yeah, very difficult to get excited.
Yeah, as I stated in the Discord and on a previous show, I am still excited for this release. I still get excited for the releases every year. Why? Because the majority of the time, we do find something to play that we get enjoyment out of. Out of the last two releases, we finished WNBA seasons. right? So we're excited about getting the WNBA portion of this game because it's going to include the rookies like Olivia Miles, etc. Caitlin Clark now has a face scan. That's my oldest brother's favorite player. We're going to jump into the season, and if the gameplay is even on par with NBA 2K26, we'll probably finish that season. We also have our Legends season that we're going to be playing against the CPU, where we have stat goals and we make great highlights and all of that stuff. Again, as long as the gameplay is as good as 2K26, 2K25, etc., we will get enjoyment out of doing that. It'll be fun to share those stories and that footage with the basketball gaming community. However, again, I'm not just thinking about my experience with these games or how I view this trailer. Overall, I think you and I talked about it. The trailer is fine, right? Like, it shows some cool stuff. We're both not graphics snobs, so at the end of the day, it's whatever. But I can see where people are coming from when it's stating, the gameplay is stale, or I have 2K fatigue because of the gameplay, and graphics seem like they're regressing. And why do graphics look better on some of the PS4 gen NBA 2Ks in many ways than they do on this trailer or in NBA 2K26. So I feel their pain. I understand where they're coming from. One of the most popular quote tweets to the trailer, which at this time has 438,000 views, 4,600 likes, 159 comments, was from Will. He states, 2K is a bad product. It's been a bad product for over a decade. It's also the only basketball sim in gaming. I enjoy playing basketball sims with my friends, so I buy 2K. The bar is literally, don't make the worst game ever, and I'll find a way to enjoy this bad product. And I think that's where many are at, right? It's the only 5-on-5 basketball sim that's released every year in gaming. People want to play a basketball video game each year. As long as they can tolerate the game, they will buy it, right? And I think that's why the sales are still good. There's no competition in the space. People want the distraction. They want to be able to play 5-on-5 sim basketball. So I still think that's why, as from a sales perspective, that's why it's still successful.
Oh, definitely. But it's not a ringing endorsement that people are tolerating the new game. Oh, I want a new game. This is the only one on the market, so it'll do, I guess. I wish we could be more optimistic about that. And it's not really the trailer that has me that concerned. Like you say, cool moments, etc. We're not graphic snobs. We know what we're going to get at this stage. We know at this point of the generation, they're not going to do some of the overhauls that perhaps we'd like to see as far as motion engine and so forth. My concern is what we know about the game so far, those snippets of information that they posted, and of course we'll get to them shortly, but hearing about what they've got planned for the game, the dunk meter, as you brought up at the top of the show, that's what has me concerned about the game. Also, the fact that they're going to do this big info dump on the 18th. We're not going to get these weekly previews, as in previous preview seasons. We're not going to get these snippets every single week, these developer insights, these cool previews that we once used to get throughout the preview season. Very hard to get excited about a big info dump on the 18th. And as many people, yourself included, have pointed out, that big info dump is coming a day after the pre-order discount, and that extra bonus is going to be available. So they're asking gamers to put their money down before they've heard really anything about the game. And I know that's been the case for a few years now, but this is a really extreme version of that.
And that has to be by design.
Of course.
Right? There's no way that that's a coincidence, that the pre-order discount ends and then the next day, that's when the majority of the details come for the newest game. So, yeah, the goodwill, it doesn't seem like it's really there, right? Listen to some of these comments related to the trailer, and I'm just going to go from top to bottom here. You have Key, Quiis. He states, Jersey tech still the same. Should be seeing different styles of sizes and looseness on various players by now. Shaking my head. And yeah, Andrew, I've been playing NBA 2K15 a lot lately. You and I revisited NBA 2K14 for a couple games just the other day. And that Jersey tech is a lot better. The detail on the jerseys, the jersey movement, all of that, it's far better. And that game, NBA 2K14, came out 13 years ago. So that's a red flag. Sim Gaming Network at Sim Gaming Network states, man, you could have told me this was 2K26, 2K25, 2K24, or 2K23, and I would have believed you. And they're talking about how all the games are just kind of running into each other. You're not seeing that innovation. You're seeing all the same body types. You're seeing similar lighting. You're seeing a lot of the same faces, all of that stuff. And yeah, like that's part of, in my opinion, the 2K fatigue. And I want to point out, too, the Sim Gaming Network post has 77K views, over 3,000 likes. Big Blue at Big Blue Take states 2K26 and 2K27, and he shows the whole meme of he ain't do nothing but step back, and it's a guy who looks the same in the before and after pictures. Jetboy TNT states all they did was update the rosters. That has 3,000 likes. Ballsack Sports states you could put the 2K14 trailer side by side with this and it might win. And he actually used the video that I uploaded. It says from D for 3 Gaming. And it's the 2K14 trailer. It has 2K likes and 22 comments, people agreeing with him. Prize Pick states it cost me 10,000 VC just to watch this trailer. Ken Kingsley states 20 seconds of gameplay and 2 minutes of animations. Old animations at that. What are you doing? Jig states nobody pre-order till they lower the VC prices. Bluke states literally you and EA are playing for who's more repetitive and trash. Now, these are all comments on the official NBA 2K trailer video. You're not seeing positivity here, right? You're seeing a lot of negativity towards the series, not necessarily just at the trailer either, just towards the series in general. Wast states looks exactly the same. RGT85 says showing off the exact same cat model from 2K26, which also didn't look good. What a great choice, guys. So those are just some of the top comments below the official trailer. Yeah, and I understand people's overall frustration. I do hope that the gameplay is improved, Andrew. I do hope that people can have fun with this game. I do hope that it's more fair to the gamer. But yeah, I just don't see a lot of optimism.
No, we don't have a lot of reason for trust and goodwill in the brand, unfortunately. And this is compounded frustration, to your point. Years of being disappointed, underwhelmed by NBA 2K. And look, year to year, obviously it is a very similar game until they change things up, like the motion system in NBA 2K18. Until we get that new tech come in, or they make a significant change like shot aiming in NBA 2K17, I guess, but certainly NBA 2K21, NBA 2K17's actually worked. So I'm hesitant to bring that up. But certainly a big change like shot aiming in 2K21, something big about the mechanics or the underlying technology, like the motion engine, physics engine, etc. It is very similar year to year, as all the annual sports titles tend to be. But when the quality is higher, you bring up NBA 2K15, that was a great follow-up to NBA 2K14. The game was really cooking at the time. We trusted NBA 2K. They were delivering a great product year after year. So if it was more of the same, if it looked like more of the same, then there was trust there. We thought, okay, well, it's probably going to be of a similar quality. Great. We liked last year's game. We loved last year's game, in fact. So it's good that it looks so similar. These days, with all of the stagnation, that's a bad thing, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm not surprised by those responses to the trailer, both what people are seeing, what they're expecting from the game, and of course, that compounded frustration with the lack of goodwill with virtual currency, how greedy the games have become. Even if the gameplay is an improvement, we're going to run into those issues with my career and my team. What other undesirable changes have they made? When we got the NBA 2K18 Prelude, we got that snippet of my career, we couldn't upgrade our player as we could in NBA 2K17's Prelude. And that turned out to be a prelude to the greed of the neighborhood, charging for haircuts, things like that. What are they hiding this year? Once again, the discount ends the day before the big info dump. They're trying to hype the game up enough to get people to put their money down now. They're trying to give people just enough to be interested with those snippets of news across various modes, a couple of snippets of gameplay information there in the roadmap for the previous season, such as it is. Again, just one big info dump. What are they trying to hide?
Yeah, going back to, you're talking about innovation, look at all the innovating they were doing between NBA 2K12 and NBA 2K17. And look at all the different looks of those games and the different body models and the different looks at graphics and gameplay. 2K16 with the 4 size ups, bringing in size ups in NBA 2K15, and then 2K17. They brought it back down to 1 size up, but they smoothed out the dribbling and the foot planning was amazing. All of that, you look back at what they were doing on PS3 and PS4 gen, you can see why people were getting genuinely excited based on the trailers for those games, based on the early gameplay footage. And then when they got their hands on the sticks, they weren't disappointed. And you can look at those comment sections on YouTube videos that are still up from those times. You can look at the NLSC forums or Operation Sports forums if they're archived, etc. And you can see all the positivity. And it just doesn't seem to be that way anymore. Just a couple other responses. Coach Rome quote tweeted 675 likes. He states, "This looks terrible, dude." Ryan Linderholm states, "It's so dumb that Xbox One and PS4 consoles had better graphics than the current ones." Dimework states, "I'm glad people are starting to call this crap out. A couple of years ago when I said this game should look better than it does, folks told me it already is as good as it can get." At LL McBucket states, "If you told me this is PS4 version, I would believe you." And that got almost 10,000 likes, 280K views. Marshall Green, 7,000 likes. He states, "The graphics are getting worse." Sad. Jake Rabideye states, "Pushing the 2030s, absolutely zero excuse for it to look this bad." So yeah, there's just a lot of people that are just unimpressed. They have the shot where Derrick Rose hit the game winner in real life, side by side with, where he's being held, side by side with how it looks in the trailer. And it doesn't look great there. His face doesn't really look like Derrick Rose.
Jared Jack.
It looks like it looks more like Jarrett Jack with hair, to be honest with you, which was actually pointed out in the NLSC Discord. It just doesn't look like there's a lot of effort there. It looks like we went backwards with the likeness for Derrick Rose. So yeah, combine all of this with people's frustration with the VC prices, with the microtransactions, with the gambling mechanics. Yeah, I can see the 2K fatigue. I can see it in these comments.
And you mentioned the changes, the improvements that were happening between NBA 2K12 and NBA 2K17. And it did feel like the game was making progress. It felt like the changes, the additions, were actually enhancing the game. Bringing in the new passing controls in NBA 2K16, bringing in the right stick dribbling in NBA 2K13, of course. Making those enhancements, listening to gamers, taking that feedback on board, implementing solutions, making the game better. And this has been pointed out in the Discord as well, that it feels like a lot of the things they're adding in recent years are just taking out things, re-adding them, changing them up a little bit, giving them a different name, a slightly different approach, whatever. They're not actually improving the game at all. They may be appeasing people who think they add a skill gap, these QuickTime events, which we're going to get into shortly. They're adding that kind of stuff for the sake of adding something new to the gameplay, making something different from the previous year. But it's very superficial. It's not actually improving the game, not having a positive impact on the gameplay.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the game is being made anymore with the consumer's interests truly at heart, at the heart of the creation of the game. And that gets us to our next topic. And this just tells me that Andrew may not get past the first week playing this game.
Yeah.
I've already pre-ordered the game. I'm more excited for NBA 2K27 than Andrew for the reasons that I mentioned on this show already and on prior shows. But Andrew absolutely hates the alley-oop meter. Not only does he hate the alley-oop meter, he hates the contact dunk meter. I agree that both don't function overall properly. I don't believe that they should be in the game. I don't think that they're necessary or represent true skill gap. But this new meter just tells me that Andrew will not be playing this game. It was announced that all dunks will have a meter in NBA 2K27. The announcement states, "This year, we're adding a new layer of skill as all dunk attempts must now be timed using the dunk meter." In NBA 2K26, the dunk meter remains static regardless of what happened midair. Which, by the way, that's not the way it functioned when I used it. Other people are also pointing out that that's not the way it functioned when they were using it either. It states for NBA 2K27, we've made the meter fully dynamic and created more realistic outcomes. It now continuously evaluates defensive positioning from the moment you take off all the way through the finish. So the way the dunk meter worked in NBA 2K26 is you could pull back on the joystick and it would force you to do a dunk in traffic. You could also pull back on the joystick and just do a wide open dunk in the open floor or whatever, which there was no reason to do that. You could just use like the regular shoot button to do it. But it almost never worked properly in NBA 2K26 because it would show green when you initially went up. And then if any defender got near you while you were in the air, the green part of the meter would disappear at the last minute and you would miss it the majority of the time. To the point where my brother and I just never used it because it was stupid. It didn't function properly. It made no sense. So they couldn't even get that right in NBA 2K26. Now they're going to force you to have a meter on all dunks. That means also wide open dunks. Andrew, you're going to have to time them. Reminds me of like NBA Playgrounds, right? Something you hated with that game is every layup and every dunk, you had to time it. And it was ridiculous. And I don't think this is truly for the gamer. I don't think this represents skill gap. I don't think a quick time event says anything about you as a virtual basketball player. I think it's absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary. It has not been announced that there is a way to turn it off. I asked on Twitter, I asked Beluba, so Mike Wong, it's Evan CC and Chris Manning. Tagged all of them, and I stated, will there be a way to shut the dunk meter off in NBA 2K27? And I did not get a response. If there is no option to turn this off, just like with that contact meter when you pull back on the joystick, just like with the alley-oop meters in the game, if there's no way to get rid of the timing and there's no way to get rid of the visual, the meter visual, in my opinion, they are missing the mark in a big way. And the comments about this on social media platforms about this announcement say I'm right.
Yeah, and it worked out so well in NBA 2K Playgrounds 2, didn't it? Having a dunk meter, missing dunks, the easiest shot in the game, the highest percentage shot in basketball. I understand people wanting to add skill, but like you said, a QuickTime event is not a great measure of skill. It doesn't make the game more skillful. It just means that you're looking at another meter. And even if you can turn the meters off, but still have the timing on, because we might get that, and people will say, oh, you can turn the meters off. And what we really mean by turning the meters off is turning the timing off, like we can do with layup timing, like you can do with shooting if you turn it to real shot percentage. You know, having those options, those accessibility options, is so important in offline gameplay. In the online scene, if you want to enforce this skill gap nonsense, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's turning people away from the online scene. I think it's making the game extremely toxic and elitist, but at least a lot of us who play offline modes wouldn't have to deal with it. It would just be for the so-called hardcore competitive gamers, right? In offline gameplay, single player, local head-to-head, local co-op, you should have those options to customize gameplay, and I'm not confident that we're going to have those options. And you're right, if that's the case, we can't turn off dunk timing, you know, not just the meters, but the underlying mechanics. I'm probably not going to be playing a lot of NBA 2K27. I don't like that approach. I don't think it adds anything to the game. I think it makes very simple plays unnecessarily frustrating. So, yeah, I'm probably going to put that game down in less than a week if, as we suspect, we're not going to be able to customize that part of the gameplay. And it's not a hit with people. People weren't asking for this. And to your point, they've seen how it doesn't work. These are the additions to gameplay, the changes, like shot aiming in NBA 2K21, that just don't appeal to a lot of people. They don't make the gameplay better. They appeal to the elitists who want to say, get good. You know, tick off the NLSC Podcast bingo, Derek. Me mentioning get good, you know, it allows them to thump their chest and say, well, it's a skill issue. You know, I can make all of my dunks. Great. But these games are for everyone, for all different skill levels. And offline gameplay should be customizable. So potentially, this could be very damaging for NBA 2K27. Certainly doesn't sound like a lot of people are looking forward to it. And if people are struggling to make dunks, again, the highest percentage shot in basketball that first week, I think a lot of people are going to join me in putting the game down.
Couple things. One, a quick time event doesn't say that you know more about basketball or are better on the virtual hardwood or anything like that. Okay, it's just a meter that fills up and you can time it. Big deal. I could do that on fighting games or on RPGs and whatnot. This isn't an RPG. It's a basketball game. Right. Number two, like you stated, nobody asked for this. And I think that's where it gets frustrating. Nobody asked for the alley-oop meter. Nobody asked for this dunk meter. Nobody asked for layup timing to be broken and have to have it off every edition of the game. Nobody asked for a lot of these things that they're putting in the game. That's why it doesn't feel as consumer-oriented and as consumer-based as it used to be. I wanted to get to some of the responses under NBA 2K27 News and Intel's tweet related to all dunks need to be timed through the dunk meter in NBA 2K27. AJ3 Radio states, why though? Why does 2K keep adding mechanics for things that no one asked for? Zen users going to be up after this one.
And that's a great point. A lot of these mechanics actually lend themselves to cheat devices. You know, certainly they lend themselves to people who can just learn the timing and mindlessly time every quick time event. Like you said, doesn't necessarily mean it's skillful, but it's been proven that Zen's cheat devices can take advantage of these mechanics so easily.
Eugene at iShook states, they add crap like this and make it seem like it's a huge update. They trickle little quality of life BS and dumb people eat it up. That got 149 likes. D Spiz states, they acting like the meter didn't shrink mid-dunk. What the F are they talking about? Somebody pointed that out as well. HR Paperstack states, the meter was not static last year. Crap would consume my green window if somebody farted behind me. And yeah, it basically, if anybody was in your area and you tried to do a contact dunk, the green window would basically go away. And you thought you timed it right, and then you would just brick it off of the back of the rim, which is why we basically just completely stopped using it.
And of course, that reminds me of NBA Live 19, a game that I have warmed up to, but I still have my quibbles with the shooting, because when a defender gets close enough in NBA Live 19, it takes away that green window in the process of shooting. So you're trying to time the shot, you know, whether you're looking at the meter or you're just going off muscle memory, knowledge of the animations, and that green window, that make window, gets taken away at the last second. And yes, if you time it correctly, you still have a high percentage, or the highest percentage, if you will, of making the shot, but that green window, that guaranteed make that you were going to hit, is taken away. And of course, when you're playing against a CPU defenders, much more adept at getting in your airspace, sticking with their man, so those kinds of mechanics that are very focused on online play. And that's the other big problem. A lot of the mechanics that they're bringing in may be suitable to some extent for head-to-head gameplay, but against the CPU, where you're playing against the AI with its superhuman reaction times, reacting faster than any human possibly can, these mechanics just don't work.
I don't think they're suitable for online or offline play, competitive or not.
Fair.
I don't think that... I think these meters are ridiculous. I think that if you're spending more time watching a meter than you are playing basketball, it defeats the purpose, right?
Oh, for sure.
If you're taking a jump shot, you should be looking at the, where the defense is, focusing on your shooting form, etc. And the same with dunking. If you're jumping up for, a dunk, you should be paying attention to the defense around you. Are you going to have to adjust your shot? Are you going to have to kick it out? You shouldn't be looking at meters. It defeats the purpose of playing virtual basketball.
Do you want to enjoy the dunk that you see?
Yeah, you're not going to be able to. Right? That's the piece, because you're going to be looking at a meter the entire time. And again, I don't think this represents skill gap either. If I was ever to make a basketball video game, there would be no meters. If somebody wanted to have a shot meter, because I know that you use one every now and then to combat lag, something to be able to have in your toolbox to help you shoot, I would maybe include it as an option, but my default option would be to have it off, because that's not playing basketball.
Absolutely. And I should qualify that I don't think it's great for online play, for competitive play either, but I will say that these mechanics can work slightly better. They're more forgiving against a human opponent with human error. Against the CPU, it's just totally unforgiving.
Yeah, talking about the contact dunk meter issues in 2K26. Again, at Dion Hayes states, so is the meter going to actually work instead of shrinking last second? And that's my exact experience with the meter in 2K26. It didn't function properly, like many things they put in the game since 2K18. At Doughboy Burner states, all dunks, WTF, this crap sounds stupid as F. Joey at Joe Swanson 2K states, don't worry, in NBA 2K29, they'll bring, quote, our new updated quick sensor dunks, end quote, and it'll go back to regular button dunks they've had for the past decade plus. And that's the other thing that people have been mentioning in the Discord and online is, and including with some of the announcements with NBA 2K27, acting like something is new when they're just bringing it back. And that frustrates people, and people have good memories with this stuff.
And it wouldn't be as bad if they said, we hear you, we've heard the feedback, that was a bad idea, we're changing course, we're listening to you, we're going back to what worked. But instead, like you said, it's trying to sell it as this huge new innovation, how brilliant they are to bring back what was working a few games ago, that there was no need to change. It is nice when they correct course, obviously, but it would be even nicer if they admitted, hey, we kind of messed up there, we heard you, we're going back to what you like.
EWZ states, do these devs even play the game? The dunk meter's already bad with the input delay. Now they're making it worse. At Tricky Lou states, this is why I stopped playing NBA 2K. Why are they adding unnecessary features to the game that serve no purpose? Yeah, I don't think this is for the consumers. And you can see this in all of the comment sections. So how can they see this feedback? How can they get this reaction and see how negative it is and still move forward in that direction? And again, I've said this on so many past shows, Andrew. How many games do you see on Steam and on social media in general get praised relentlessly for their quality, right? For how they treat their consumers, for what they offer in their games and whatnot. I see so many games like Stellar Blade and Elden Ring and some other sports games as well that get very positive or overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. And you look at their social media channels and the comments are like really excited about the updates or what's to come or something that's coming in DLC. And then you look at gameplay videos on YouTube and people are excited about the graphics, about the gameplay, about the lore, all of that stuff. People are not just going online to say negative things. You want to know how I know that? Because everybody's online, Andrew, and not everybody's negative, right?
Yeah.
Like the majority of the world is online now, and you can see countless games that are very positive or overwhelmingly positive. So this means something. Like the reaction to the trailer, the reaction to the dunk meter, the reaction to, the VC stuff in the game, all of that means something. And if I were the developers, I would take note of that and I would try to make changes that are more consumer friendly. However, as you know, it's all about the bottom line, right? And with no competition in the space, just like that user mentioned that we talked about earlier in the show, with no competition in the space, they feel like they can basically do whatever they want. That's the way it looks to me, and I think you would agree. They feel like they can do whatever they want with this game, and they're still going to make the sales. And unfortunately, that's the way it seems.
Yeah, as much as people say we don't need NBA Live, or NBA Live wasn't keeping 2K honest, or had no benefit at all, it's proven the competition is better for both games. There's a reason that NBA 2K overtook NBA Live. They were doing basketball better. They were listening to gamers. They were giving us what we wanted on the virtual hardwood, in modes, just across the entire product. Yeah, that's why they pulled ahead in critical reception and eventually sales as well. And to your point, NBA 2K was once one of those games, those series, that was well regarded. As you said, go back and look at the comments of those older games. Of course, there's always going to be criticism. Not everybody loves every decision or every single game. Some games did one way or another. But so many great releases in the NBA 2K series, people are praising openly. And during the preview season, they're saying, this looks like last year, but I loved last year's game, so that's good news. It's staying the course. I think I see a new animation as well. I'm looking forward to the game. And what they're talking about, what they're adding this year, what they're saying in the developer blogs, I like the sound of that. We've said that as well on previous shows. But it's gotten to the point where the game is stagnated, the additions don't feel like improvements. They just feel like marketing, things to market the game this year. We don't have the trust in the brand because of the greed, because of the lack of improvements over the years. So it's not just a case of people hating on NBA 2K. And maybe with younger gamers who haven't played as many games, they've come into the series later, so this is all they know. I can't blame them for that. But long-time gamers who have played NBA 2K, seen it at its peak, seen it at its most consumer-friendly, of course they're pushing back on this.
Think about this. This is wild to think about. If somebody played their first NBA 2K at 10 years old, they would have started with NBA 2K18, and now they're an adult playing NBA 2K26 and 2K27. That means that 10-year-old, the only NBA 2Ks that they experienced related to preview season, related to DLC, related to updates, related to all the announcements, the graphics, the gameplay, and everything, is 2K18 and up. Isn't that wild to think about? Just how fast time is going by and everything just blows my mind.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
So, before we get into the community's responses to this week's community questions, I believe you wanted to summarize kind of the other announcements related to NBA 2K27.
Yeah, so we got a roadmap of the preview season, such as it is. Once again, all the news dropping on August 18th, again, a day after those pre-order bonuses, those extra pre-order bonuses, and the discount end. We do have some snippets to tide us over until then, and I did summarize them in my bulletin, sharing the gameplay trailer and a LeBron James screenshot, and the snippets are as follows. AI players will do a better job of contesting shots and holding their position, making them more effective teammates in modes like the Rec. We've heard that before, Derek. Remains to be seen. All dunk attempts must be timed using the dunk meter. Obviously, we've covered that. 53 badges in NBA 2K27, an increase from 40 in NBA 2K26. More specifically, 19 new badges, 6 have been removed. And this has also become an annual thing, hasn't it, Derek? Talking about the new badges, the badges that have been taken out. Oh, there's 53 badges, there's 70 badges, 100 badges. Sometimes they promote more badges as a better thing. Sometimes fewer badges are a better thing. And we've talked about the boosts before, Derek, these artificial boosts. When I hear about the number of badges, I just wonder what negative effects are they going to have this year?
Again, in my opinion, this isn't about giving the consumer the most positive gameplay experience that they can have. It's about making them feel like they have to grind for these, so that they need these badges online. And I think, the more artificial boosts that are in the game, the more things that can help my player and whatnot. I think that they want as much of that type of content in the game because it keeps people in the game longer, it keeps people grinding longer, and it keeps people spending money. I don't think that artificial boosts are, in general, in the consumer's best interest from a gameplay perspective, because basically what ends up happening is it creates all of these artificial happenings on the court. Like I've stated before, you go up for a layup on one side of the rim where it would be wide open in real life at any level of hoop, but because somebody has a certain rim protector badge, even though they're not even really close to you, you miss that wide open layup just because they're in the vicinity and they have that badge, right? That's not true skill gap. That's not like real basketball. But as somebody who's playing online, and if you want to win, that's something that you might seek, right? You might seek that badge in order to have those unrealistic sequences and stops at the rim so you can get the win. So I hate all the artificial boosts. I think the gameplay has gone incredibly downhill since they overloaded the game with all of the suction and all of the artificial boosts and artificial happenings. But unfortunately, 19 new badges in this game.
Yeah, and it's not made with sim gamers in mind, hardcore basketball fans and gamers in mind. They're the kind of mechanics that appeal to competitive online gamers who want the game to be more like a fighting game or a battle royale game or some other genre that's not simulation basketball. And yeah, it comes back to the grind. It comes back to, I've made the wrong build, an ineffective build, and of course I can't respec, so I need to create a new player. If I've bought VC to upgrade that player, I need to do that all over again, pump more money into the game. It's all connected.
So ridiculous.
It's all connected.
It just, even hearing you say it on this podcast, it frustrates me to no end. I feel bad for those gamers. You shouldn't have to start from scratch and, potentially spend more. I think it's ludicrous. I think it's ridiculous.
And far too many people, certainly some content creators who like to promote the game, don't mention this stuff, don't acknowledge these connections. Absolutely. Speaking of grinding, cap breakers are returning, and gamers will be able to see a preview of the attribute boosts in the My Player Builder, allowing for more transparency when creating builds. Supposedly, the auction house in my team will be cross-platform between PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch 2. The verification delay when purchasing cards in the auction house has been removed to speed up transactions, fixing a problem that they introduced. Obviously, Derek, my NBA seeking to improve the core experience by accurately reflecting various CBA rules, including the second apron effects, no trade clauses, and so on. I thought a lot of that stuff was already in there, but I guess some of it's fallen by the wayside.
I think a couple of people pointed out that there is stuff that's already in there that they're announcing as new, so I don't know if that's some of it, but it's very possible.
And finally, the city in my career will have a familiar centralized layout, albeit with a new nighttime neon aesthetic. We've seen that in some of the screenshots, including the 2K Mart promo, and Rocket Park has also been added to the game, and is going to be featured as part of this year's My Career story, which is titled Fire and Concrete. So, a few snippets there, some good news here and there, I suppose, or potentially good news, but to be honest, Eric, combined with the gameplay trailer, and certainly the big news about the dunk meter, nothing I've heard so far is increasing my hype for the game, my optimism for NBA 2K27. I'm not really looking forward to the game. I wish it was different, but that's my honest opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it a little bit more than you. I've already bought it, so I pre-purchased, and that means more than likely you'll also be able to get to play it early because we can connect on Parsec. Right. So we'll have to do that so you can get an early look at it. Maybe you'll have a little bit more fun and optimism once you and I play co-op. I hope that the gameplay is at least on the level of 2K26 where my brothers and I can have fun with it, but we will see. So let's get to this week's community questions. I asked basketball gamers, what are your thoughts on the NBA 2K27 official gameplay trailer? Neon and Butch Gaming at Stildo33, friend of the show, states, the crowd seems to be more involved. I also like the no-look passing potential. Looks like a lot more emotional play, which is fun to see. Those things are good and all, but will the gameplay be any good? Will the skating be fixed? Will the players hug, pull, and suck into each other? So he's speaking to the suction, the issues that he's had with gameplay. I know that he didn't like NBA 2K26. He barely put any time into that. He much prefers NBA 2K25. As it relates to no-look passing, we've had that for years. I can do no-look passes, in NBA 2K14, using a fancy pass mechanic there. So yeah, they tried to make it look pretty cool in the trailer, but I'm not seeing anything I haven't seen before in that as it relates to that. Crowd has been pretty involved in the action in the last few minutes of games. I think you would agree, whether it's footage you watched or, games you've played. I know that we've had some clutch moments with a Caitlin Clark game-winning three. My brother hit a game winner in the NBA portion of the game when we did a drafted season. And the crowd's jumping up and down and really involved. So I'm guessing the crowd is going to be mostly the same as it was in NBA 2K26. But yeah, I hope NBA 2K27 is better for Stildo than 2K26.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm not optimistic that I'm going to enjoy the game. That could just be me. I do hope that even if I don't enjoy it, others do. Am I skeptical because it looks so similar to the games that I haven't enjoyed and others haven't enjoyed as much? Sure. But I'm not going to tell anyone that they're wrong for enjoying the game. And hopefully they do.
MP3 Gaming at MP3_gaming states, I feel it's easy to make a trailer look good in cinematic form. However, It's raw gameplay footage that shows some difference, but only if the user knows how to play the game the right way. A terrible user will make the gameplay look terrible. And we've talked about that with the preview seasons, Andrew. We've talked about that early gameplay footage, the content creators and influencers that they have on the sticks that they have showing footage. The majority of the time, they don't show the game well. Oftentimes, they don't know what they're doing on the sticks. They're not using players appropriately. They don't really know how to play basketball. They don't show the game very well.
And the raw gameplay piece, we used to see more of that during the previous season. Whether it was off-screen recordings, obviously, at conventions, and that's when we did see a lot of the rough gameplay, admittedly, but we would see those raw gameplay demonstrations. Now, it's just the gameplay trailer, that cinematic gameplay trailer. Hard to glean much from it, hides a lot of the issues, not all of them, obviously, because we do point them out, but hides a lot of the issues that raw gameplay would immediately allow us to identify. Yeah, I absolutely miss the quality, the depth of previews we used to get.
Mac MVL at SweetJones_OTF states, it's more emotions and reactions look authentic, so he liked what he saw. T Gentry at Bucky_T states, well, it didn't show really much gameplay. The issues that are still present surely was hard not to miss, even in the trailer. Tons of sliding, invisible walls, etc. We talk about this all the time, D. It's truly a damn shame, man, what 2K has become. A damn shame. And a couple people liked his post as well. And yeah, I still see some of the invisible wall stuff. Talked about the canned blocks. You see some sliding in there. I'm not optimistic about that portion being improved, the foot planning and whatnot. I honestly feel like the gameplay is going to be pretty much what we've experienced over the last couple of years for the rest of the PS5 cycle. So if a new console does get released in 2028, that means that, the next couple of editions of NBA 2K, I'm expecting to look and play mostly the same.
And once again, technically it's a gameplay trailer because what we're seeing has been created in-engine. They have played the game, captured those clips, sure. But as he says, we're not really seeing gameplay as such. We're seeing some highlight clips, very carefully curated highlight clips from cinematic angles. And again, we can actually see some of the issues presenting themselves in those highlights with the game being made to look its best. So it does make you wonder, what is the raw gameplay like?
Kung Pao Enjoyer at Shrek2 Fanboy states, it's such a nothing burger of a trailer. Like, what are they even trying to show off anymore besides the roster update? Shawnee states, there are literally zero thoughts to be had, LOL. So not impressed with the trailer. Justin Francis at JustinFrancis7 states, the overall movement looks janky, but some of the animations, like Wemby's jumper, looked a lot more fluid in a direct comparison to 2K26, posted by 2K Lab. So maybe they used some pro play on Wemby's shot. Maybe they corrected the form, so he'd like to see that. But yeah, he's talking about the janky movement. And yeah, you've seen that over the last couple of years, and I can see it in the trailer when they show Caitlin Clark coming around a screen. She's janky when she's rounding the corner, and her body's kind of like stuttering a little bit. So yeah, he sees that as well.
Yeah, and until there's a change in the technology, and even then, if they're going to make the game the same way, under the same design principles, that stuff's not going to change.
Moving over to Discord, Luxor states, maybe it's me, but I never liked that these highlights are called gameplay trailer when I really want to see the scoreboard, or if the shot meter has changed or anything else. I know they will go a little more in depth in a future video, but these kind of trailers do nothing for me, and it would make it easy for some to take the other trailers from a few years ago, show it to someone to say that this is a first look at 2K27, and they'll believe you. And yeah, he's talking about the games just kind of running together graphically and from an animations perspective.
And it remains to be seen whether we will get that gameplay footage, that raw gameplay footage that they used to show in addition to the cinematic trailer, showing off the shot meters, the timing, the scoreboards, trying to show the gameplay in the best possible light, just playing the game, not just using those cinematic clips. Remains to be seen whether we're actually going to get that this year with such an abbreviated preview season.
So let's move on to our next community question, which was, it was announced that all dunks will have a meter in NBA 2K27. If there is no way to turn it off, how will it impact your gameplay experience? And do you think dunk and alley-oop meters are necessary and that they help with skill gap? Jason Paul at ThatJPaul states, if that sticks for offline as well, it really tells you where all their priorities are. It very well could make sense for rec and park, but I want the offline experience to be a customizable sandbox, not just an offshoot of the online experience. Yeah, and that's also our worry as well.
Yeah, and like I said, some of these mechanics might work a little better when you have human reaction times on the other side of things, because you will have human error, you will get those open shots that are taken away by CPU defenders. That being said, I don't think they're great for online gameplay by any stretch of the imagination, but they do work a little bit better when you don't have the AI opponents. But of course, playing offline, playing against the CPU, you are going to have those reaction times from your opponents. You're going to have those green windows taken away. They're going to come in at the last second and change that dynamic meter and mess things up, mess up an easy shot, mess up something that you've timed really well. You know, it doesn't feel skillful. It just feels very phony, fake difficulty. So, yeah, absolutely agreed.
T Gentry at Bucky_T states, I think it's going to be frustrating as hell. I already hated the layup meter and alley-oop timing meter. As you know, I've recently started playing without the shooting meter, and honestly, I enjoy that way more. I hate meters in basketball games, but I understand those who use them. But yeah, I don't like meters either, Bucky T. At JStash23 states, simple, keep it for the online community, but the offline community should have a choice to turn it off completely, just like with the real shooting percentage. Give me the option to turn it off completely. I don't want to play Mortal Kombat on a basketball game. And yeah, we should have the option to turn these meters off and to have the timing portion also turned off. Munda Bompton at Poopton_man states, I haven't been able to do alley-oops in a very long time. I'm pushing 50 years old. Why can't we just toggle the alley-oop timing meter off? I play with friends offline in person, and we have the same exact issue. The devs at 2K must allow offline gamers to turn it off. Nice to see that you're pushing 50 and still playing basketball video games and still having people over to play basketball video games. We love to see that, Andrew. Andrew at Andrew the X states, I don't mind these types of mechanics for online competitive play. My concern is always forcing it on offline players, new players, and casuals without an option to turn off. It's also not catering for a disabled demographic who may not have the capacity to time. Absolutely, it would affect my gameplay experience. Makes me pause to pick up the game. Hopefully, it's more forgiving and not affected by opponents' badges, late challenges, etc. I don't mind if an open dunk has a 95% window. Open alley-oop has 90% window, but flashy tight contest has 20%. So, yeah, he's thinking about not picking up the game because of that announcement, Andrew.
Yeah, he brings up a great point about accessibility. You know, for everybody, obviously, newcomers and experienced gamers alike. And certainly, if anybody does have any kind of disabilities, accessibility issues, you know, they should still be able to play these games, enjoy these games. And certainly, being able to customize those settings offline is how you account for that. And I noticed that MP3 responded to the X saying, as we talked about before, and here, my attempts at contact dunks are bad enough, but now it's for every dunk attempt. Also, as he feels is aimed at people playing my career, since they're only playing with one player, only have to master one set of animations, whereas people playing any modes where you're controlling all 5 players, you have to learn timing animations for multiple players. And this is something that I had to deal with when I was moving away from playing my career, Derek, going back to controlling all 5 players. I did struggle a bit. I had to relearn how to shoot with different animations, control different players, make things happen for every player. Because when you are player locked, you can kind of sit back sometimes, set up the CPU for my glorious assists that I love to get so much, dropping those dimes. You know, had to relearn how to play traditional gameplay. I absolutely agree that a lot of these mechanics are based around my career and controlling a single player.
Even at the Live King, in response to me stating we should have an option to turn the meter visual off and the timing off, he states, we should because nobody likes it, but 2K is stubborn with the fake skill gap in this game. Pluck at Pluck OG states, if they F it up, it will kill the game. I do expect it to be the same as the current meter, though. Des Hiu states, it's getting patched off the 3rd week after everybody cries they can't dunk, just like the shooting last year. We're not crying, Andrew.
Yeah.
No tears. No real tears are being shed here. Kemp's Play and Pull states, imagine if they have not found a way to stop Zens. This is just going to be pure highlights. So like he's stating 100% dunks because they're going to cheat to time everything right. Snake at Snake 2022 states, that sucks because now we can't watch the dunks. We can't experience the dunk. All we will see now is a meter, turning this game into an online service-focused gameplay. And yeah, I talked about that earlier. Focusing on a meter instead of what's actually happening with your player, instead of being able to enjoy that dunk, that experience, posterizing a defender. Even if you're doing a dunk in the open court, not being able to truly enjoy that experience because now you're staring at a meter. I think it's ridiculous.
Absolutely. And to quickly back up to the whole crying point, if a majority of the fan base, the user base, is saying this doesn't make the game enjoyable for us, that's a sign that it's not a good idea. It wasn't the right move for the gameplay. These games obviously should have an element of challenge, but if it's fake difficulty, if it's just a quick time event, like you said, Derek, not a measure of skill at all, that's not a good improvement. So it's not about crying or whining. It's about speaking out about a mechanic that is not working and doesn't enhance the game and shouldn't be there.
Yeah, maybe he should stop crying about other people crying, or, in this case, not crying at all. Andrew. Moving over to Discord, Luxor states, Dunk Meter gives me NBA Playgrounds vibes. Not gonna lie, I do miss older basketball games that doesn't rely on meters. I kind of get why meters exist, but I have to ask, what was wrong with traditional jump to the highest point and shoot? Mechanic, and yeah, that's the way I prefer it too. Luxor. QB1120 states, a meter-filling game can be fun if it's not basketball. In Dallas, I played this Pabst Blue Ribbon branded arcade game called Perfect Pour, and it was so much fun. Yeah, quite a bit different than basketball, Andrew.
A little bit. Yeah, and it's not that these mechanics are inherently bad, that they can't work in certain genres, but the way they're implemented in basketball games, yeah, it just doesn't improve the on-court experience.
So do we have any other responses to this question on the other social media platforms?
We did have a few people weigh in on Facebook as well. Roger Ward, NBA Live 1 legend, of course, says it's one of many reasons I have no interest in playing any new 2K games. I'll keep playing 19 and having fun. And yeah, NBA 2K19, one of the high points for us as well, Derek, and I think a lot of people do feel that way, certainly I do, that this generation hasn't been user-friendly, gamer-friendly, hasn't been making those consumer-friendly choices from the on-court experience to the grind with VC and whatnot. So yeah, a lot of people are sticking to a game that they enjoy. I certainly am sticking with old favorites, Derek.
My brothers and I played 2 games of NBA 2K19 today, actually. All-time fantasy draft season, and that was fun.
Renee says the alley-oop thing was almost game-breaking, and this might be the final straw for him. Yeah, we've kind of put up with it when it was alley-oops, when it was shooting, obviously. A lot of people do like the green releases. I've certainly taken advantage of that mechanic over the years. I feel more positive about meters and timing as far as shooting is concerned, but when it comes to layups, alley-oops, and now all dunks, yeah, that's very off-putting for a lot of people, as we can tell from the comments everywhere, Derek.
Yeah, it's not a positive add to the gameplay experience. It doesn't get people excited to play virtual basketball.
A couple of people saying, bring back NBA Live. People want that alternative. And yes, NBA Live 19 kind of did a similar thing with their shooting mechanics on jump shots, but NBA Live 19 is still a very solid game. If nothing else, people want that alternative, Derek. We've seen what happens when there's just one player in the space.
Yeah, and like I stated earlier, the reason why they can kind of get away with the lack of innovation, with some of the anti-consumer practices, with a lack of a better term, is because there is no competition in the space. They don't have to worry right now about losing that market share. They're the only player in the space, and they're going to get all those sales.
And finally, Joseph says, a shooting meter, dunk meter, etc. should only be used for practice modes. Meter timing in actual games does not feel like you're playing a basketball game. And that's something that you brought up many times, Derek. I do use the meters as that guide, especially when it comes to online play. It does help there. But I absolutely understand not wanting to use the meters, not having that visual cue. And of course, it's not just about the meters, it's about the underlying mechanics when it comes to layup timing and dunk timing. Sure, you can turn the meters off, but the timing is there, and people don't like that. But yeah, if nothing else, having to look at those meters, or feeling like you have to, and being distracted by them, doesn't feel like you're playing basketball.
Yeah, and there's no indication, as of yet, that we'll have an option to turn this dunk meter off, right? And there still won't be an option to turn the alley-oop meter off, or the contact dunk meter. So I'm guessing, as it relates to dunks and alley-oops, that meter will be permanent with no option to remove it. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think it helps the consumer enjoy the game from a basketball perspective at all. And I would say that's for the majority of consumers, especially looking at all these comments on social media.
And even if we can turn off some of those meters, like the dunk meter, for example, like you can do the shot meter, again, it doesn't disable the underlying mechanics. I highly doubt they're going to give us that option for offline play. So even if you can turn off the visual cues, you're still going to be stuck with that timing on dunks and all the problems that causes. Once again, people were not begging for this. They're foisting it upon us anyway. So yeah, I suppose we'll see how well it works out. But yeah, certainly not a lot of optimism, Derek.
I don't think the shooting mechanics have functioned properly or have been realistic or good since 2K19, probably. I think 2K19 is the last 2K where, I thought that shooting was okay. That was pretty good. I think that 2K17 had really strong shooting. I've been playing actually a lot of 2K15 lately, and the shooting mechanics are excellent. I think they actually blow away what we have in NBA 2K26 and what we had in 2K25 and whatnot. It's amazing how much we've declined in so many areas, in my opinion, as it relates to gameplay to so many of the past titles.
But thank you to everybody who responded to Derek's community questions. As always, great having you as part of the conversation. Once again, we'll be covering the news as it comes in. The big info dump coming on August 18th, of course. We'll be covering that on our August 25th show. And as you said, Derek, you have pre-ordered the game. You will be getting it early. So yeah, towards the end of the month, we will cover all of the news and previews and give you some hands-on impressions. But yeah, once again, Derek, this previous season, pretty underwhelming, the way that they're approaching it. Nothing like previous seasons from years ago.
Yeah, a lot of negativity. A lot of the announcements and the footage just kind of bumming people out. I wish it wasn't that way. And like I stated, there's still some excitement in my house to get our hands on the new game. And I do hope that most people that pick up the game do get enjoyment out of it. So fingers crossed there. And thanks again to the community for responding to this week's community questions. A lot of thoughtful responses. And yeah, we appreciate it.
And in the absence of news, we do have some fun topics coming up. So please stay tuned. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. Thank you for tuning in, and remind you can catch us every week on the NLSC, our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Also, both we and the NLSC are on social media, and would appreciate a follow. So Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D43G and at D4384. I'm also on YouTube, D43, and on the NLSC, D43.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, give a look to the NLSC itself, nba-live.com, for all things basketball gaming. So, thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone!